Fair and balanced.
WOBM News presents Ask the Congressman with Tom MacArthur. This is your chance to discuss the issues with 3rd District Representative Tom MacArthur. The phones are open, 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions to @WOBM. Ask the Congressman begins now. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Our men and women about to return to Capitol Hill face some unfinished business that really hasn't cooled off any more than the weather here has at the shore. Zika cases still on the increase. The FDA orders screening for the mosquito-borne virus in all donated blood, and a bill to research the disease still awaits action. Parents facing steadily mounting costs of potentially life-saving EpiPens for their children's allergic reactions are catching the ear of key legislators, but what can force Milan to change is pricing. Back here in the 3rd Congressional District, staffers at Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst and their supporters are working feverishly to position the installation as the optimal home for the KC-46 air refueler. It's in the Pentagon's top 5. And heroin continues to plague every community despite all the action on rehab and enhanced law enforcement. These are major concerns for Congressman Tom MacArthur, as is the perilous state of financial affairs in Puerto Rico. He's one of 2 House Republicans assigned by Speaker Ryan to a panel that's tasked with finding solutions that don't bounce back on taxpayers. These topics and more occupy this edition of Ask the Congressman, and we invite you to join the discussion. But before we get into that, I just want to preface this whole hour with one small comment, okay? And this has to do with the goal of this program. And Eric Scott knows it because he and I drew it from the same source. Back in the 80s, Governor Tom Kean actually started this concept with Ask the Governor, and it was strung along a series of stations throughout the state. That network of phone lines kind of disassembled after his administration. Jim McGreevey revived it. John Corzine attempted to continue it. Chris Christie totally continued it. By then, the entire landscape had changed. But the goal of the program is for an elected official to speak with constituents in a kind of a personal way over the airwaves to kind of take the place of the town halls that don't get scheduled. It's also a chance for people to learn about what it takes to be a congressman, how the wheels of Congress turn, and what is one congressman's role among 438, I think it is?
435.
435 people to affect that mechanism, what it takes to do that, and to talk about issues in your district. So if you have a question, and I'm only doing this because we're getting into nutty season now, and this kind of a program, which is designed to be an education and to address programs and problems that you see, maybe problems that you have with a federal program, maybe questions you have about a federal policy. These can be addressed here. But remember, the operative word in this program is ask the congressman. It's not harass the congressman. It's not indict the congressman. It's not pester the congressman. It's not accuse the congressman, okay? So with that ground rule in place, if you have a question about something that concerns you in the district, whether it's a federal policy or a federal program that you think he can answer, then I invite you to give us a call now at 732-505-1160. If you wish to speak to him about his positions and about his background and about his character, then I guarantee you he will talk to you at any of the venues in which he's appearing. But have the courage to speak to him face to face and eye to eye. Don't hide behind a telephone. That said, let's get busy. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I appreciate the opportunity to be back on. For me, communicating with constituents is paramount. If people don't know what you're doing, then they have no way to assess whether they want you to do something different. And opportunities like this for me are Just a terrific way to hear from people, hear what's on their minds, and let them know what I'm doing and thinking about.
And I want you to understand, I'm not doing this, I'm not saying any of this to protect him. He doesn't need me to protect him. If anything, I need a guy like him to protect me. So it's not about that. And I am the only guy who's been accused of protecting conservative Republicans and liberal Democrats all at the same time. So I'm a miracle man. But let's get busy with a couple of things. I got to talk about the Zika bill because now we have Disney World, SeaWorld, Universal Orlando giving out free bug repellent now. It's gotten to the point where people don't want to go because they don't know if they're going to get something. And truthfully, it hasn't even hit Central Florida. But they want to be on the alert. And they want to give people some reason to, they want to give them some level of comfort zone. So now this is costing them money. Now there was a bill that was up before Congress broke for break.
Yes.
Calling for $1 billion?
Well, there were actually 4 bills. There were a lot of different iterations of the bill, but this is the warmer climates are facing this much more than cooler climates, but this is a major issue. I just talked a few days ago to a friend of mine. His sister, who's pregnant, actually left the state of Florida for the rest of her pregnancy. My son and daughter-in-law were in a very warm weather area recently, and it was on my mind that they, young couple trying to have a baby, and they're in an area where there's been many, many cases of this. So this, to me, absolutely requires congressional action. I have voted for every version, the $600+ million version that the House initially approved, I supported. Then the Senate had a $1.2 billion version, and when that came back, I supported it. I supported language that was different in various bills because I don't think we should let the perfect become the enemy of the good here. There's not one way of approaching this. We have to do something. And in my mind, we had better get back at this. I wish we had been called back into session to address this. We're back next week. We've got to get to this.
What held it up in the first place? What stalled it so that everybody left and went back to the districts?
You said a few moments ago about this being the silly season, or I forget what you called it, but politics is what stopped this. Tom, it's as simple as that. And I won't point fingers. I could point them at both sides here. I think that people lost sight of the goal, which is to protect lives. And it bounced around between the House and the Senate and became a political football. And I think it's this is the sort of thing that drives me crazy about Congress. The focus should be on solutions, not on scoring political points. And now we have had conversations. I was on a call with the Speaker just a few days ago, and I believe we're going to get at this very first thing when we get back next week. And and it's about time.
And I guess it's fortunate that things haven't gone beyond the borders that they have, but still, this is a very serious issue for pregnant women.
Yes, and
local and for an entire generation of youngsters who aren't born yet.
Local communities are addressing it. Private enterprise, as you mentioned, is addressing it. States that are particularly affected are addressing it. But the federal government has a role here, and the federal government needs to address it. And I will be all over this next week when we get back into town, because we've been told we're going to have some action, and we better have some action.
What else are you prepared to go back to at this point? I mean, there's so much going on. And first of all, how do you stay focused? Second of all, what else is in your top? Let's call it your top 3 when you get back.
Well, you're right to use the word focus, because if you don't focus in Congress, you can get nothing done. You can spread yourself so thin, a mile wide and an inch deep, and accomplish nothing. So for me, we go back to a defense bill that the House and the Senate have to agree upon. That is a high priority for me. We continue to work on the KC 46 and trying to make sure that our base is chosen for that. I've spent some time over the summer at the base with the new commander of the Expeditionary Center, and I took a tour to see the effects of budget cuts, which are deep and they concern me, and so I'll be focused on that. I see an opportunity. Some of the legislation I had proposed on Sandy early this year, I've been trying to find ways to get these things enacted into law. I was able to get the statute of limitations on clawbacks, on recoupments, passed in another bill. But flooding now in New Orleans is causing a whole new set of discussions on disaster relief, and I intend to press to get some of these reforms that I think are needed on Sandy. I want to get them into the discussion.
You actually, going back a few months, and you repeatedly called for Craig Fugate to step down, but he's still in charge. Do you trust him with this new one now?
I am very wary of anything that comes out of FEMA, but they're in charge, and I've got to work with them. And what I want to do is get Congress to force some reforms that I think will eliminate some of these problems. And it has to do with recoupments. It has to do with duplication of benefits. Remember the whole small business loan versus REM grants, and so
Sure.
I think there's opportunities on Sandy, and as we go into next year, the reauthorization of the flood program is on my agenda. The heroin crisis is just heartbreaking, and it continues to be a problem. And I am working on some solutions. We've been working over the summer on some things that we think might bring some more help and relief in that area. So those are certainly high priorities for me.
Worth noting, if you're going to be in Forked River this Wednesday, there's going to be the Young People in Recovery, Ocean County put this together. It's one of only maybe a dozen in New Jersey that are recognizing International Overdose Awareness Day. Congressman MacArthur is going to be at Lacey Community Hall for that. That's going to start at about 6. It's over on Lacey Road, East Lacey Road and Forked River. They're going to be representatives of Fed up there and from YPR. If you have been at all touched by the heroin epidemic, you owe it to yourself to see the good that's coming out of this and see the people who are committed to affecting change on that. Because it's not simply cops and robbers. It's not a legal issue. This is a human issue.
It's all of the above,
Yeah.
really. We passed a group of 12 bills. I'm on the heroin task force in Congress, and we had proposed bills. The Senate had done the same, and we came together around 12 bills. Every one of them dealt with either prevention, and that included some law enforcement issues, recovery, and treatment, and trying to help people that were already addicted to heroin. And all of these bills, they were passed into law. The president signed them. They're all trying to help local communities, help law enforcement, help people that are struggling, including groups like babies born addicted to heroin, or student athletes that are getting addicted. I think it's some good work that's been done. It's not, in my view, it's not enough. And so we are now exploring. Some states are passing laws where loved ones can go to the court and petition to have an adult addict committed for treatment, even if the adult addict says, no, I don't want to. And the idea is that even if you're an adult, if you're addicted, you can't make rational decisions. And so some of these laws in other states, and there's some efforts going on here that I support, would allow family members to go to the court and say, we're willing to pay for it, we want this person in rehab. And I'm trying to find ways at the federal level to support that, like using tax-deferred funds, like a flexible spending account or other health spending accounts, things like that, so that families have every opportunity to help their loved one. It's just a heartbreaking epidemic.
Congressman Tom MacArthur is our guest tonight, and you can be too. You can give him a call here at 732-505-1160. We're going to step out for just a second, and we will return right after this.
More with Congressman Tom MacArthur coming up next. This is Ask the Congressman. News Talk Radio, WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310.
Do you have $10,000 or more in outstanding federal student loans? Well, you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, you may qualify for new federal programs to have your entire student loan forgiven. Graduate Service Center wants to give you free information on all the programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster you can get relief. Get the maximum loan forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. A loan forgiveness specialist is standing by to answer all of your questions for free. So stop worrying about student loan payments. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, this information could change your life. Call 800-375-1169. 800-375-1169. Wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call 800-375-1169. That's 800-375-1169.
Tune in to Luz Katigna, certified financial planner and host of The Financial Physician every Friday at 10 a.m. on News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. During these stressful times, it's more important than ever to keep informed about the economy, financial markets, investments, and income taxes. He'll take your phone calls and answer questions on any money matter. You'll hear no-nonsense, straightforward financial advice and commentary. So make an appointment with your financial physician every Friday at 10 a.m. right here on News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
I didn't want to talk. She just sat with me. That was all I really needed.
We got back. One day he called me out of the blue, and it's comforting to know that I always can count on him to have my back.
She called me from time to time. I really didn't think I needed any help.
It took me from being really depressed to feeling like somebody cared. It gave me some hope. Just that one text.
Be there. Your call, your presence, your words, your support. Be there and help save a life. Learn more about preventing suicide at veteranscrisisline.net.
Are your federal student loans making life miserable? You may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, nurse, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, then you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven. The Student Loan Pros want to give you free information on all the student loan programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster they can help. Get the maximum forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. Loan forgiveness specialists are standing by to answer all of your questions for free. Don't pay another penny in student loans until you call. If you have more than $10,000 in federal student loans, this free information could change your life. Call 800-226-0017. Find out how to wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call now. 800-226-0017. That's 800-226-0017.
Congressman Tom MacArthur is here to talk to you. 732-505-1160 or tweet your question at WOBM. This is Ask the Congressman. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Congressman's on the line with you, and we left off speaking about solutions that can help overcome this heroin addiction issue we're dealing with for so long now. I told you before, I find that vertical communication going on really productive. I don't see enough of that, where somebody on the federal level is going to the state level and saying, okay, how can we work together to create a funding stream for this? What resources do we have? And that's where we left off. But you have a couple of other issues.
Well, and it's not even, Tom, just at the state level. Ocean County's prosecutor, Joe Coronado, has been really at the forefront of this epidemic. And I've had numerous meetings with he and his staff now to talk about it. He's educated me on things that I didn't know. And some of the ideas I've considered, I've talked to him about. So it has to be an all hands on deck response. Every town hall, teletown hall meeting that I have, families are coming to me. I had a a town hall meeting out in Morristown just 2 weeks ago, and a whole family was there, just heartbroken, who had lost a daughter, and they were losing another one now to heroin addiction. And it is such a crisis. It knows no bounds by age, by gender, by ethnicity, by race, it's just affecting so many families. And unfortunately, South Jersey is at the epicenter of it. So that's why we just have to do anything we can to help. And it does include local, county, state, federal. All of us have to be working together.
Congressman, one of the things that strikes me about this entire issue is the number of people who transition to street heroin because of the cost of prescription meds. They're out of their prescription. They can't afford it. Maybe they're out of opportunities to renew that prescription. And the cost is so exorbitant that this looks like a better alternative. Is there any way of dealing with big pharmaceutical and saying, look, what are you doing here?
Well, it's beyond even just the cost. It's people that have become addicted to opiates because of an injury or something else. And some of the legislation that we passed that's now signed into law addresses how doctors prescribe pain meds. And there's requirements about education for managing pain. That's a piece of it. And there's changes to how doctors are allowed to prescribe. So instead of only prescribing 30 days at a time, they can do 5 days at a time, for example, if they choose to. The idea is let's try to avoid getting people addicted to opiates in the first place, because then you're right, once they're addicted, the leap from a legal pain reliever to an illegal drug like heroin is it's cheaper, and it's a leap that unfortunately many people make. And the stories about student athletes, for example, they get injured in a school, football game or something like that, and they get put on pain meds and get addicted to them, and their life is destroyed. That's why we had one bill focused just on education regarding that risk.
And one of the most amazing things is that many people who wind up hooked on it don't even know what's happening when it's happening.
Of course not, yeah.
Everybody thinks that they're above it and that, oh yeah, I can control this. And the horse is already out of the barn by that point.
So I just want people to know I'm working on it. I have a resource kit for any family that might be affected by it. It's on my website. I would MacArthur.gov. I would encourage people to take a look, and if we can help in any way, we want to.
What are some of the components in the resource kit? That's a great idea.
It gives people places to go where they can get help. It gives information, and it just helps people to know that they're not alone, that there are resources out there available for them.
Mm-hmm. You're with Congressman Tom MacArthur here, and if you're going to be, by the way, in Evesham, this will be tomorrow.
Yes, yeah.
He's going to be with Mayor Randy Brown and the police and fire departments. It's the Fallen Heroes First Responders Softball Tournament. They'll be at Arrowhead Park. And it looks like it's going to be a night game.
It is indeed.
At 6:30.
Yeah, I'm going just because I want to support our first responders. I was at Waretown's National Night Out a couple of weeks back for the same reason. These are opportunities for me to thank our first responders, police, fire, EMS, let them know that that I've got their back and appreciate what they're doing, and so that's why I'll be there.
Are you playing? What position are you?
I'm playing the bench. I'll be a spectator.
That's my favorite position. I'm good at bench. You put a mitt in my hand and things start to get a little dodgy, but you did play once, though.
I did. Yes, I did.
What position?
Second base.
Yeah? How did you like that?
I did like it.
What did you learn about life from being a second baseman?
Well, I learned something about persistence, and I learned that baseball wasn't going to be my career because I couldn't hit too well.
Did you learn to look out for the guy sliding in from first?
Yeah, sure.
With his spikes up?
You learn a lot from team sports, actually, about working with people.
Yeah, you do. Congressman Tom MacArthur is with us. We're going to step out for a brief moment here, and we will return. We'll take your calls, too, at 732-505-1160. Stay with us.
More with Congressman Tom MacArthur coming up next. This is Ask the Congressman. News Talk Radio, WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310.
This is Marianne Levy, News Talk Radio, WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310. Broadcast from the Preferred Home Healthcare Studio. Since 1987, Preferred has offered the highest degree of care. Preferred Home Healthcare with feeling.
The Jersey Shore's news leader. Listen online at WOBMAM.com, on the Radio Pup app for smartphones and tablets, and on air at 1160 and 1310.
News Talk Radio, WOBM.
We'll see a fairly pleasant weather pattern for the next couple of days. Rip current risk along the Jersey Shore, though. Overnight, we'll see a mainly clear sky, a low in the mid-60s. Intervals of clouds and sunshine on Tuesday, a high back in the mid-80s. And Wednesday, Tropical Depression 8 heads further out to sea away from the East Coast. Intervals of clouds and sun across the region. Wednesday's high about 90. A frontal system moves in Wednesday night, Thursday. Could be a few thunderstorms. Thursday's high up in the low 80s. I'm meteorologist Mark Thibodeau.
News Talk Radio, WOBM.
Are your federal student loans making life miserable? You may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, nurse, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, then you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven. The Student Loan Pros want to give you free information on all the student loan programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster they can help. Get the maximum forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. Loan forgiveness specialists are standing by to answer all of your questions for free. Don't pay another penny in student loans until you call. If you have more than $10,000 in federal student loans, this free information could change your life. Call 800-226-0017. Find out how to wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call now. 800-226-0017. That's 800-226-0017.
This fall, join us at The Glow, a jack-o'-lantern experience, a new and brilliant wonderland happening every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, beginning October 7th at Monmouth Racetrack. Come with us for a quarter-mile walk down Jack's Lane, a magical world where you'll experience everything from elaborately detailed single pumpkin carvings to amazing larger-than-life structures. The Glow brings to life a spectacular pumpkin wonderland with more than 5,000 illuminated jack-o'-lanterns. Glow with pride through the Jersey Jaunt, a memorable tour of Jersey's most famous. Marvel at the ghostly pirate ship Revenge, led by Captain Jack and his band of marauders, and wander into Prehistoric Park, where you'll stare into the glowing eyes of our 16-foot dinosaurs. The Glow will take place beginning October 7th at Monmouth Racetrack every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. and is sure to capture audiences of all ages. Tickets are on sale now, with admission starting at $16. For more information, check out theglowjackolantern.com.
There has never been a better time to show law enforcement that we care. Help WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and the Jay and Linda Grunin Foundation salute our law enforcement heroes in Ocean County with Huddle for Heroes. It's a program designed to showcase the many charitable, community-oriented events that our local law enforcement organizations are hosting. Together, we stand behind the people who stand on the line for us every day. Check out WOBMAM.com for upcoming local law enforcement charity events and more information.
From Ocean County to our nation's capital, talk to Congressman Tom MacArthur right now. 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions to @WOBM. Ask the Congressman on News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for stopping in. And just a note for you, during the month of September, 14th, 21st, and 28th, we have, of course, elections coming up in November. We are going to feature the candidate slates for Ocean County Freeholder on those successive Wednesdays. Episodes of Town Square tonight, 14th, 21st, and 28th. We're with Congressman Tom MacArthur tonight. We mentioned we'll be in Evesham tomorrow. You're at the Alice Paul Institute. Tell us about that experience. Alice Paul is a huge figure in Jersey history. Why were you there?
Well, I was there with Senator Booker and about 15 young women, mostly high school students. A few were moving into college. And we were just talking about issues that affect women and their hopes and dreams and their desire for equality. And it was actually a pretty lively and invigorating time. And I think it's important for young people to see people working together. And I was happy to be there with Senator Booker. Look, he and I disagree on many issues and how to approach a lot of issues, but the two parties have to work together to get things done, or we're not going to get anything done. And it goes back to where we started this conversation with Zika. We owe better than that to the American people, and so I was happy to be there. Alice Paul is really the woman responsible for the 19th Amendment, women's right to vote. She's had a tremendous effect on women all over the world, and actually she's going to be going on the $10 bill with some other 4 other women that have likewise been involved in.
Does that happen next year?
I don't remember exactly when it's happening, but I know that decision was made and announced, and I have a bill that I introduced to give her the Congressional Gold Medal for her contributions. She's really a New Jersey hero, and it was a great place to be.
What happens to Hamilton?
Well, I don't know. I've asked that question too because
he's got a play about it.
I know it. Well, so I'm hoping there'll be different versions of the $10 bill because I'd hate to see Alexander Hamilton disappear from our bills altogether.
Well, if the play keeps running, at least we got that. Let me just ask you. You talked about the parties working together, and I have to ask you this because I asked Frank Pallone the same thing, but from the other side. Working together does not seem to function for either of these presidential candidates. I don't want you to bash Hillary Clinton. I want you to sell me Donald Trump. Why is he electable? What is it?
Well, I'm not selling anything. First of all, the American people will make up their mind about that. But I will say that the reason that I've supported Donald Trump is because we've had 8 years of a president who's tried to remake America into something very different. And people say he's not a leader, but he's actually had a fair amount of success at leading this country in a different direction. I believe, and I think most Americans believe, that's the wrong direction. A direction where government is much more involved in our lives, where we're more disengaged from the world, we're less prosperous. I think all of us feel less safe. And I honestly believe, Tom, that Hillary Clinton will bring us 4 or 8 more years of the same. She'll enshrine a lot of that in the Supreme Court if she's president. And I simply don't believe that we can afford that. And I look at Donald Trump, I don't agree with him on issues, on a lot of issues. I would, even when I agree with him, I might describe things a little different than he does sometimes. But I think he's somebody who has gotten a lot done in his career, and I would rather be in Congress debating with him my answers to some of the questions of the day. And I feel like we'll get farther if we have him as president. So for me, to not support him would be to support Hillary Clinton. I can't do that. So that's why I support him.
Do you really buy into the image of him being an outsider? I mean, he may be an outsider in that he's never run for office, but he knows everybody. I mean, how can he possibly position himself? And being a man of wealth, how can he really seriously describe himself as somebody who speaks for the common man?
Well, again, I'll let the American people answer for that. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are very wealthy people. And so I think if that's the only qualification, I don't know how you would assess that. I know this, though. There's a difference between knowing people and being a creature of the system. And I am now just finishing my 2nd year in Congress, and I went there as an outsider. And believe me, there's a difference between people that have lived their whole life in the political realm. People see things differently. I have faced a Congress where it seems like the definition of success is scoring a political point against the other party. I can't tell you how often I hear that the goal is to unite us and divide them. No, the goal should be to solve the problems that face the American people, or help anyway. We can't solve them all. The goal should be to advance things that make us a stronger, more prosperous nation. And I find that people that are truly insiders, that have spent their whole career as creatures of Washington, those are the ones who have lost touch with the American people. Forget whether they're rich or poor or something in the middle. They have lost touch because they don't live in the real world anymore. And I believe we mostly need people in Washington that refuse to become part of that disaster.
Congressman, you talk about a strong country, and defense is part of that. And you touched briefly before on your visit to the Joint Base, and we discussed briefly the competition to create a home at the Joint Base for the KC-46. You also discussed the effect of cutbacks. What did you see out there that struck you?
Well, I'll tell you what prompted me to go. I had heard some reports as we were going through the defense bill and thinking through our spending priorities and such. I'd heard reports about military equipment being cannibalized. Planes, for example, that were sitting in museums or sitting dormant at airfields being taken apart to provide supplies and parts for planes that we're using. I saw reports of planes that are flying long after they should have been replaced. That puts our troops at risk. And it certainly makes us less effective as well. And so those things started to give me cause for concern, and I reached out to the Joint Base and asked if we could come out and take a look. Unfortunately, I saw evidence mostly in the facilities, but also in manpower. We have fewer people doing the same things, in fact, maybe doing more. We have people having more deployments. We have buildings that are really substandard in some cases at the base. Now, fortunately, our hangars are in pretty good shape, which is helpful for the KC-46s if we get them. But we'll need to do some building at the base to house those planes. And what I saw really concerned me. I saw one storage depot where we store ammunition, ordnance. I wouldn't store my lawnmower in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really that bad. And so we have to spend an adequate amount to continue as the strongest nation on earth. We have to. In my view, we should be spending at least 3% of gross domestic product, at least. The world is dangerous. It's getting more so. And I think for my kids and yours and our grandkids to have a prosperous, safe future, we have to stay as the strongest nation on earth. And that has not been the spending priorities of this current administration, unfortunately.
No, I think that's borne out by the fact that there are, again, rumors of another base realignment and closure
Well,
process
he's
in
tried.
the future.
The same language I got into last year's defense bill that said he couldn't do it, and it was signed into law last year. The same language is in this year's bill. It's not signed into law yet, but I'm simply trying to slow down that process until it's thought through more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
I think sooner or later that there probably will be another BRAC, but I just don't think we're ready for it, and I don't think that bases once they close ever open again. So that concerns me.
No, I can name a bunch of them that didn't. Lots of real estate up in Plattsburgh.
Yes.
Go up there a lot.
Right here in New Jersey.
Yeah, sure.
In Monmouth County.
Monmouth County, yeah. The KC-46, though, this is a competition. I mean,
yes.
It's kind of like being a gladiator.
We're doing well. There were 11 bases that qualified. We worked through the process, and it's down to 5 now. I'd be surprised if we're not one of the next 2 bases to receive the tankers. We're really well positioned, and there's a number of us in the delegation working together. and bipartisan working together. Both Republicans and Democrats were working together. I'm grateful for my colleagues. The vast majority of that base is in my district, and yet I've gotten really good support from other members of Congress around the state.
There is also a groundswell of people from the county who support the efforts. Dina over at the County Administration Building is basically running that entire thing, and she rallies the troops. Is that something that even lands on the Pentagon? Do they know how much support this base has?
I think they do know. First of all, we've sent a number of letters as a delegation, and I'm about to send some more from different groups of people around the state, so that they know business people support it. They know, veterans groups support it. They know the school system is eagerly ready for the children of our military personnel. They know local mayors and the freeholders you mentioned support it. I think that's part of it. I think how we treat the children of our troops is a big deal, and I've been to most of the schools round about the base, and they don't get enough federal aid for the fact that they've got all these students, but they do a terrific job with the kids. And we're talking about some other things. There's been some work to try to get an overpass or an underpass that connects either over or under Route 539 that connects the Lakehurst side of the base better to the Dix and McGuire side. And we've been in active discussions with the Department of Defense, and they know that the state and the county are willing to participate. The details, remain to be seen. But they know there's a lot of support in this community, and I think they hear it from people that are stationed there, that this is a place that treats them well.
What are some of the other criteria that the Department of Defense uses in order to determine where they're going to position this thing?
Well, the biggest part of it is mission. They look at whether the mission is consistent with the assets at the base, which I think we're in great shape. Our runways, our hangars, our repair facilities. They look at environmental factors, things like airspace, empty space around the base, and I think we're in okay shape there. They look at cost, and I think we're in really good shape there as well, because it's most of the missions that we're flying, about 40% of the Air Force sorties are cargo and refueling missions. Mm-hmm. And all of the refueling missions are coming out of either Travis Air Force Base in California or Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst here in New Jersey. And we are much closer to the areas of conflict today in the Middle East, and so the cost of flying planes from here is less. 30% of the entire National Guard is within a drive of this base. I mean, that's a big deal. That we can get people here quickly. We can deploy people at a lower cost. So those are some of the qualifiers that they look at, and they rate them all. And and then there's some softer judgments, and that's what we work on a lot with people at the base behind this, or people at the Department of Defense behind the scenes, so that they know how we treat the children. They know the local mayors are doing things to try to help. They know that BMAC, the Burlington County Military Affairs Commission, is working hard to support our troops, and likewise here in Ocean County, there are groups that are trying to make life pleasant for the families that are left behind. And so there's a lot of pieces to it.
Let me just ask you this. You're doing that for the Joint Base. There are other congressmen doing that for 5 other bases. When you guys run across each other in the hall, like, do you look at each other and say, "Yeah, I gotta get this guy"? I mean, does that become an issue?
It hasn't. I try to stay off their radar because I don't know what they're doing, and I don't want to give them any ideas. I want to fight as hard as I can for this base, because it's very important to this community. But I also think it's vital for national security, and anything I do with the Department of Defense, that's the focus, because they don't care. They're not going to benefit one community versus another. They're focused on defense issues, as they ought to be. And so my focus with the DoD is always why this is the best location for for the mission and for what needs to get done.
Congressman Tom MacArthur is with us tonight. We have a few more minutes to go, and we will continue right after this. Stick around.
Let Congressman Tom MacArthur know what's on your mind. Call 732-505-1160. Ask the Congressman continues next. News Talk Radio, WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310.
Is there someone you know in need of home health care? Make sure the agency you select is licensed, bonded, and insured. Preferred Home Health Care only uses certified home health aides and licensed nurses, providing hourly and 24-hour live-in services, pediatric to adult care. Call 1-800-603-CARE or visit preferredcares.com. Preferred Home Health Care and Nursing Services. Home health care with feeling.
I preferred home health care. You're in preferred company.
Do you have $10,000 or more in outstanding federal student loans? Well, you may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, you may qualify for new federal programs to have your entire student loan forgiven. Graduate Service Center wants to give you free information on all the programs that can help. And the sooner you call, the faster you can get relief. Get the maximum loan forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. A loan forgiveness specialist is standing by to answer all of your questions for free. So stop worrying about student loan payments. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, this information could change your life. Call 800-375-1169. 800-375-1169. Wipe out your federal student loan debt. Call 800-375-1169. That's 800-375-1169.
Hiring people is probably the worst part of my job. It's such a hassle, the searching, the sorting through resumes. Most people don't have the right experience.
We started using ZipRecruiter about 3 months ago. Right from the start, you could tell it was going to make hiring a lot easier. One click and my job was posted to 100+ job boards, all the top sites.
All of the candidates came to my dashboard, and it's easy to compare them. Thumbs up if I liked them, thumbs down if I didn't. No emails and attachments, printing up docs, phone calls, none of that.
And I couldn't believe the number of great applicants we got. I had the person we needed within 1 week. I don't know how we hired before ZipRecruiter.
Whether you're looking to fill one position or 20, find the best candidates with ZipRecruiter, where your job is just one click away from 100+ job sites. ZipRecruiter, the fastest way to hire. And right now you can try ZipRecruiter free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial. ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
Hi, this is Bob Richards, host of Managing Your Money, right here on WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310. For over 41 years, it has been my privilege and my passion to serve your financial planning and investment needs. Let's see what we can achieve together. Again, join me every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Managing Your Money. Or call me, Bob Richards, at 732-286-1000. That's 732-286-1000. It won't cost you anything for the first meeting, yet the information you get could be priceless.
Keep the questions coming. Call now to talk to Tom MacArthur. 732-505-1160. Follow the show on Twitter and tweet your questions at WOBM. Ask the Congressman continues now on News Talk Radio, WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Congressman Tom MacArthur. We mentioned Evesham tomorrow. On the 31st, he's going to be at the Moorestown Rotary Club for their breakfast. That's in the community house on Main Street. He'll also be doing a meet and greet at the Masonic Village at Burlington on Jacksonville Road. That's going to be a morning affair from 9 till 10:30. You have a busy day then.
All my days are busy.
No. Additionally, there is an event coming up at the Borough Heart and Lung Center, which will be in collaboration with Senator Menendez about a bill that you have introduced. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Deborah is a very unusual hospital in that, first, it's very specialized on heart and lung issues, but two, it has never billed a client for services. It takes what it can get from insurance and other sources, and it doesn't balance bill clients, and they're very committed to that mission. They are, it's really an administrative snafu, but rural hospitals get paid differently than urban hospitals, and they've been misclassified because New Jersey, the entire state of New Jersey has been classified as urban, even though Deborah serves areas that are hardly urban in South Jersey. And so Deborah and a couple of other hospitals in the country were put in the wrong billing bucket. And I'm trying to change that because it's worth tens of millions of dollars in payments they ought to be getting from Medicare. So I tried to do it administratively, just to get CMS to recognize the problem and fix it. That didn't work, so I introduced legislation to fix it. And Senator Menendez has been supportive, and so we have an event in a week or two to shine some light on that issue and try to get some traction.
When you say it didn't work administratively, is it a question of that's money that is going somewhere now that would be diverted? And there's
it's really not. It's just, look, everything has to come, all money spent has to come from somewhere, so it would come from their budget, but it's just about doing the right thing by a hospital that is serving a large number of seniors. And one of the things, Tom, that drives me a bit nuts about the federal government is things that are pretty simple. I'll give you a perfect example. It goes back to the base. The two sides of the base have not had pay parity since the base was combined. And it should have been a simple fix at the Office of Personnel Management. The base became a joint base nearly a decade ago. I'd have to go back and look at the exact year. And all this time that's been fought, and I looked at legislative fixes, we looked at administrative fixes. We just finally got that fixed, so that if you work on the Lakehurst side or the McGuire side or the Dick side, you get paid the same if you're doing the same job. We just got that fixed in the last month. After all this time, and there's been a lot of effort, things move very slowly in the government. This is one of those things that Deborah, everyone agrees that I've talked to at CMS that they should be getting paid more for the seniors that they're seeing, and they're not. And this is a hospital that gets really hurt because of it. They're a charitable hospital, and I want to try to help them. They're serving a lot of our seniors.
We have a minute, and I just want to ask you about the committee to which Speaker Ryan appointed you that is wading through the financial morass in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
How big a problem? I realize it's a big problem, but is it bigger than you thought it would be?
It's a massive problem. The initial bill that tried to give some relief to Puerto Rico, not taxpayer relief, it just allowed them to enter into bankruptcy proceedings like you can in the continental United States. Territories don't have that benefit. So we tried to give them some relief in that sense so the debtors and creditors could sit down and reorganize their debts. They've got about $140 billion worth of unfunded liabilities between bonds and pension liabilities. And, on the one hand, I look and say, well, what does this have to do with New Jersey? But I was asked to do it because I've got a business background and I think I can be helpful. And on the other hand, it's an opportunity to try some pro-growth principles. For example, if you're a U.S. company, and we have some U.S. companies in New Jersey that have Puerto Rico operations, you want to bring your earnings back, it's treated like you're bringing it back from a foreign country, and you have to pay a tax a second time. I want to change that. But I also think we should change that across the entire country so that we encourage earnings that U.S. companies make outside the U.S. I want them to bring that money back home. It's trillions of dollars at stake, not in Puerto Rico, but across the entire United States. And so I think I may have an opportunity to try out some of these on a smaller scale, these ideas, things like enterprise zones and things that could really help spur a business growth in Puerto Rico. And if they work well, then maybe we can get some traction here at home on those same ideas.
Can't wait to see how that works out.
Well, it should be interesting. Our work has to, by law, we have to be done with our report by the end of the year. And so we'll be recommending some specific legislation. Orrin Hatch is chairing the committee. There's 8 of us. 4 from the House, 4 from the Senate, split evenly by party. And so I'll be able to work with him, and with Marco Rubio and Senator Menendez will be on as well, and we'll work on this and try to make some progress.
Congressman, thanks very much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure, Tom.
Ask the Congressman is a presentation of Town Square Media, New Jersey Shore News Division. Technical coordination and call facilitation by Mark Anthony. Video and audio coordination by Bradley James and Tom Tremblay. Programming consultation, Steve Arlino. Town Square, New Jersey's Vice President of News Operations is Eric Spock. Thank you for listening and for viewing, and we'll see you next time.
Been listening to Ask the Congressman with 3rd District Representative Tom MacArthur, a presentation of WOBM News on News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310 and WOBMAM.com. WOBM Lakewood Township, WA